Good morning. It is Thursday, January 16th, just after 6 o'clock. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on scanning, spelled Sqanning. As I always state, it's a made-up word, but it references the idea of scanning, as in scanning your body for pockets of muscular tension. Scanning, as I define it, Sqanning, is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and hopefully mental calm. That's all we're doing in this next half hour, is releasing muscular tension. These ideas are based on the writings of a man named Thaddeus Golis, who wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, in which he distills all of human and universal existence into two basic forces: contraction, squeeze your hands together, contraction, see what that feels like. It's really important that you begin to associate the word with a feeling. Contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, let go. Everything in the universe is either contracting or expanding or vacillating between the two states. You cannot contract and expand at the same time. You can't squeeze your hands together and release your hands at the same time. You can't make a fist and release the fist at the same time. So you are either moving towards a contracted state or an expanded state. And as we begin to look at ourselves and our body and our very existence, our world, through that prism, we begin to recognize when things are contracted or expanded. As I interpret it, contraction is the stuff of life. It's how we make things. It's how we do things. It's how we create identities. It's how we make money. It's how we have jobs. It's how we have relationships. These are the bringing together of forces, ideas, materials, substances to form what Thaddeus Golis calls a structure. And we hang on tight to those structures. They define us. They make us feel safe. They make us take steps to fulfill ourselves. So we spend a lot of our time and our existence contracting, thinking. Thoughts are a contraction. Doing, making an effort, worrying. All of these things are contractions. Because we spend so much more time contracting than we do expanding, which is letting go, it becomes habitual, and it is our go-to solution in most circumstances, if not all. And when we are overly contracted, we feel bad, and we crave expansion instinctively. We want to go on a vacation. We want to have a drink, smoke a joint, which are chemical expansions. We want to reverse that contracted process and expand, become permeable, open, agreeable, without definition, free, calm, at peace. So life is a balance between those two forces. As I said, as we spend most of our time contracting, it becomes our go-to stance. We tend to become overly contracted and go to contraction even when we're contracted. We think to try to figure out how to stop a thinking problem. We're worried, so we think more. So all I'm doing in this process of scanning is training you, myself, to expand through, and this is very important, the release of muscular tension. Muscular tension is a contraction. The muscles are a binary thing. They can either contract or expand. And because it's so simple, because muscles can either do one of the two things, we can easily bring ourselves into an expanded state by training ourselves to release muscular tension, to expand. And we use the muscles as a guide. If we can release the muscular tension in our body, scan through our body, searching for pockets of muscular tension, we can, by association, bring our entire being into a more expanded state. And what you want in life is a balance. You want to be able to move freely between these two states. You don't want to get stuck in a contracted state. And you don't want to be stuck in an expanded state, because then you stop being, doing, existing as we know it on Earth as human beings. We need a balance. Of course, when you're completely expanded, you're dead. You dissipate into dust. So that's all we're going to do. So we're going to use the muscles, the incremental release of muscular tension, to guide our very being into an expanded state. That's all scanning is. Squeeze your hands together, tight. See what that feels like. And then on my count, 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel the difference? Contraction, squeeze. 3, 2, 1, release. Expansion. And for myself, when I release tension in my hands, I immediately feel a release in my chest. And I feel a release through my whole body. I want to take a deep breath. I've already begun to expand. So with that, let's get started. We start the scanning process through what I call the preliminary steps: deep breaths followed by stillness and silence. A deep breath is expansive, so you're already beginning this process. Again, once you've started expanding, you've stopped contracting. A deep breath, no matter where you are, what you're doing, is always helpful to bring you into a more expanded state, followed by 15 seconds to start with of absolute stillness and silence. Stillness is the cessation of doing. You're not doing anything. So that sends a signal to your body, your mind, your consciousness that you have stopped doing. You've stopped contracting. And then finally silence, because words, thoughts are a contraction. So we're going to cease contracting intellectually. Those three things: deep breath, stillness, and silence. Take a deep breath. Sit in absolute stillness and silence for 15 seconds. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Here we go. Deep breath. 15 seconds. Deep breath. So you have already begun to expand, even if it's just, as I say, incrementally, the smallest amount. You've begun your journey into a more expanded state, and you'll begin to feel differently. So it's very important how you pay attention in this process to how you feel when you expand versus how you feel when you contract. The changes may be very small initially. That's why I always say it's very important to emphasize incremental release of muscular tension in small degrees. If you expect too much of your body, it will resist. If you gently nudge it into an expanded state, it will agree to go along. Let's do this again. This time we're going to sit in stillness and silence for 30 seconds. Deep breath, absolute stillness and silence. It's already begun. As you begin to expand your thoughts, your consciousness, your awareness that you are doing something, that you have a session you are leading, or whatever, will begin to dissipate. The mind is a muscle of sorts in that it contracts, it holds on to thoughts and ideas. As you begin to expand muscularly, the mind, which is connected to everything is connected, will follow suit and begin to, in a sense, relax, and your thoughts and ideas will drift away. That's what leaves you to a sense of peace and quiet. So even in this initial expansion, you could say, I lost my train of thought. And that's a very good sign. That means you've begun to expand. Deep breath followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. And if you are anything like me, a fidgeter, impatient, always thinking, you'll begin to notice that as you begin this expansive process, you'll find yourself feeling more still. You'll find yourself more comfortable in your chair. You'll feel less agitation, less of a compulsion to formulate ideas in your mind, to interpret this session, to judge it, to say, is this worth it? Am I wasting time? Etc., etc. Those thoughts will just drift away, and you'll feel a sense of calm, a sense of nothingness. Consciousness of time is a contractive process. Time is a structure, as Thaddeus Goals would call it. It's a construct. We've divided our intellect through our contractive skills, have divided our existence into years, months, days, weeks, hours, minutes, seconds, as a means of conducting our life, to keep track, if you will, of where we're going, what we're doing, where we're expected, where we've been. These are all constructs. As you begin to expand, the need to divide your life into these micro sections, to have a view of your life, to evaluate your life, to gauge how much time you have, how much time you've lost, drifts away. You come to a place of nothingness where time doesn't exist. It's always now. And you hear people in Eastern philosophies talk about that, be in the moment, be in the now. Well, that's exactly what it is. And this process is no different than any of those processes. We're all seeking the same sense of peace. I just do it this way, through muscular release. But just be aware. It's very important in the scanning process that you be conscious of the difference in feelings between one state or the other. The reason being, we know how to contract. We're very good at contracting. We know what that feels like. We're not as familiar with what it feels like to expand. This is why we need to go to experts. We need to go to chiropractors and masseuses. We need to take drugs or drink liquor. We need to somehow get to that state, but we don't know how. So the expansion, scanning through the muscular release, teaches you how to get to that state. So just as you would study a song to learn the lyrics and the melody, you study your body, your experience through scanning, so that you can familiarize yourself with what it feels like and recognize that you can take yourself to that place on your own. And then it becomes a very useful tool in your life to bring you, as I said, contraction, expansion, balance, to become centered. One more time, deep breath followed by this time a full minute, 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And let your thoughts go where they go. The most important thing is that you concentrate on maintaining absolute stillness. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath, 60 seconds. Deep breath. And again, very important to pay attention to how you feel. Recognizing what it feels like to expand versus what it feels like to contract. And as you begin to practice this technique, you'll start to recognize throughout the day, am I more contracted or am I more expanded? Is this a contractive activity or is this an expansive activity? Also gauge where you are on the contraction, expansion continuum. Am I more contracted than expanded? You'll begin to recognize this. Now, I spend probably 90% of my day in a contracted state, and that includes nighttime, because my dreams are a thinking process, and sometimes they keep me awake. So I'm very familiar with the contracted process, but I've started this technique, I developed this technique to begin to understand and familiarize myself more with my expansive abilities, which were very limited to start with, but have developed through the practice of this process. So now, after thousands of hours of practice, I know pretty clearly what it means to bring myself into a more expanded state. I'm not saying it's easy. It can be very challenging. Letting go, odd as that sounds, you would think letting go, if you're holding an object, letting go, you would think it would be the easiest thing in the world. But it's challenging as a human being because we hold tight to our worries, our concerns, our ideas, our name, our identity, our money, our career, our relationships, our homes. We hold tight because there is a very real risk in life of losing the things dear to us. So we hold tight. So we're very familiar with holding tight. But we're not as comfortable or familiar with or secure in letting go. That feels dangerous. So you've built up, if you're anything like me, decades of contractive processes and habits. So you're training yourself now to develop the opposite, expansive habits through this technique. So again, we're going to go into, that was the preliminaries, we're going to go into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the actual incremental release of muscular tension throughout our body. We're going to scan, this time with a Q, our body, searching for pockets of muscular tension, and familiarize ourselves, study what it feels like to release muscular tension. And as I said, you can always just squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, 3, 2, 1, and release. Just see how that feels. For me, I always feel a sort of a release in my chest when I do that. You can do this for hours and just get familiar with that feeling. And always take breaths, because the breath is a sign that you are releasing, you're letting go, you're expanding. So we're going to start with the first of what I call the 8 muscular zones. You can divide your body however you like. This is how I've done it. You can follow my guide or create your own. But all you're going to do is, you're on my count going to release muscular tension. Watch my face. 3, 2, 1, and release. Start with the face, zone 1. You can look in the mirror to actually see the change. 3, 2, 1, and release. This is the core of scanning. Pay attention to how that felt. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. That sensation of this, 3, 2, 1, release. The face, 3, 2, 1, and that is scanning. As I said, the muscles are binary. They can either contract or release. You're choosing through this process to release muscular tension. And you are going to get better and better and better at it, until at any given moment in your day, you can focus on any part of your body, doesn't matter. You can just do this and release muscular tension. That sends a signal to your entire body that there is expansion going on. It may resist. A lot of times it does. It doesn't want to let go for the reasons I've mentioned. But as I say, knock at that door throughout your body, using very incremental releases of muscular tension, the entire body will give in to this expansive process and let go, and you will find yourself in a state of nothingness, clarity, openness, permeability, calm, peace, and hopefully joy. So let's continue. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. Again, pay very close attention. How did that feel? The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. So you are going to, through the practice of scanning, excuse me, become a connoisseur of muscular release, until you can instruct your body to release anywhere, anytime. It will take time and you have to practice, but you will get better and better at it. Zone 2 is the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. Again, the head, top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Excuse me. And if you feel unfamiliar, if that feels unfamiliar, that's all right. Visualization is very useful in scanning. And if you visualize a taut piece of cloth on top of your head, and then you just let go and it just kind of releases, that can help sometimes. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. The 3, 2, 1, you're focusing on that area, paying attention, again, to how it feels. It can be anywhere. It can be, that feels fine. But then try to release the slightest amount of muscular tension. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And get to where you can say, I felt that. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. I felt that. Again, the face, 3, 2, 1, and top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Now, these may be very subtle changes. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how subtle or how small that release. What matters is that you felt it. You acknowledge it. I felt that. Zone 3, the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, 3, 2, 1, and release. And you can do this. You can send a specific instruction to your muscles, just like you can squeeze your hands together and release your hands. You could send that instruction to any muscle in the body. Now, I'm an actor. I spend a lot of time focusing on what we call the instrument. My body is my instrument. So I'm perhaps more familiar with focusing on areas of my body because it's what I do. But if you're unfamiliar with it, be patient with yourself. Perhaps you've never really taken the time to see what your muscles feel like. A lot of times it can be frightening to pay attention to your body. A lot of times we don't want to feel our body. Maybe we feel too much. Maybe we've spent a lifetime holding on to those feelings because we didn't want to release them, because to have sensations, as wonderful as it can be, can also be scary. A lot of people spend most of their life trying not to feel. So you're not going to hurt yourself in any way, shape, or form in this process. You can't hurt yourself sitting in a chair, letting go of muscular tension. So to the degree to which you feel comfortable, explore how much, if any, muscular tension you can release. And kind of study and understand, wow, that really scares me, or wow, that felt great, or wow, I don't understand why I'm so reluctant to let go. And kind of study yourself, get to know your own body, your own feelings, and explore. You have tremendous control over your physical being, more than you would even imagine. And use this opportunity in the very simple way, through the release of muscular tension, to begin to explore your own structures, as Thaddeus Golas calls them. This body we've created, the stance we take in life. How do I stand? How do I present myself? These are all things we've formed to exist in the world, perhaps as a form of self-protection, perhaps as a form of achieving things. So begin to study, and you'll begin to understand how, again, you can move yourself from a contracted to an expanded state. Zone 3, again, the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving into zone 4, the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Very sensitive area, the voice, obviously. Very tender. A lot of people, you can't touch their neck, they'll jump. We hold a lot of tension there. So study your own body and see, how does it feel to release the smallest amount of muscular tension in my neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. People have told me that on occasion, when I release muscular tension, I feel like I want to cry. What's that about? Well, you may be holding on to emotions. Holding, contracting. The cliche is keeping it together. Sometimes we feel as if we don't keep it together, we won't be able to get through the day, and sometimes that's true. If you have a job or something where you have to keep it together, you can't be emotional, then you hold on to your physical muscular tension to control those feelings. As you begin to release muscular tension, those feelings emerge. That might be unfamiliar, scary, might be joyful, but that's what you sometimes feel when you release muscular tension. To feel is to expand. To contract is to restrict. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, 3, 2, 1, and release. You may begin to feel other parts of your body release as you release one part of your body. It's all one. The body is all one. Your foot feels it when you release the tension in your shoulder. Everything's connected. Let that happen. You're basically nudging your body into a more expanded state. The body is one piece. We're doing this in zones to help our focus. But if you could, relax your entire body all at once and say 3, 2, 1, release, everything would release. But because of resistance, we approach it gently, compartmentally. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath, which I encourage you to do anytime you feel that impulse. Again, that's a sign that you are expanding. A deep breath is a sign that you are letting go. Zone 5 is the shoulders. Let them drop. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, you may not even be aware of how much tension you carry, even when you're just sitting in a chair, until you start this process. So you'll go, wow, I had no idea my shoulders were up to my ears. 3, 2, 1, release, let them go. Again, the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Zone 6 is a large zone. It's the torso, the chest, stomach, the back, down into the waist. 3, 2, 1, and release. It's a very large zone, replete with many, many feelings and emotions. I'm moving fairly quickly through these sessions just for instructional purposes, but on your own, take as much time as you can afford. The more you release, the further you expand. The more time you can spend on this process, the better you will get at it. The more powerfully you will enforce this new habit of expansion. The chest, back, zone 6, the torso, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. And take a moment to assess where you are on this spectrum. It's funny, there's an expression I think I've heard people say, someone's on the spectrum. I think it relates to some other mental condition, but we're all on a spectrum of sorts in that we move between states. We move between states. Where are you on this spectrum? Although for this, in this particular case, it's contraction expansion. So take a gauge of where you started and where you are perhaps. See how you've moved the dial. Again, how do I feel different? Deep breath. One more time, zone 6, the torso, 3, 2, 1, and release. And there is emotion associated with each of these areas. You will notice that when you release this area, you feel one thing. When you release the neck, you feel another. When you release the shoulders, you feel another. Pay attention, experience it, make a note of it, study it, familiarize yourself with it, lock it in so that you understand when you return to this process what it felt like. And you can move into this state more readily. Zone 7 is the pelvic region. Area of great sensitivity. As I always say, an area of sexuality and waste elimination. So you can only imagine the fears and concerns and excitement and dread we feel about feelings in that area. It's all tied up in that area. So you may find yourself having a sort of clenching sensation in that area, which you can release. 3, 2, 1, the pelvis, and release. And again, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. One more time, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. And again, moving quickly, just for instructional purposes, we're going to move to zone 8, down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. You can select any of these areas and stay on them, move between them. You can jump from 2 to 6 to 5 to 4. It doesn't matter. We're just moving through to familiarize you with some of your choices. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. You may feel a tingling, you may feel a throbbing, you may feel a warmth as you begin to expand. As you can imagine, the blood vessels begin to expand, letting blood flow more freely, creating this tingling warmth sensation. That's a good sign. Again, look for signs that you have expanded. For myself, for right now. I definitely feel more comfortable just sitting in the chair. I don't feel a compulsion to do or to think as much. I feel like if you had said to me at the beginning of the session, I need you to sit here for half an hour, I would have said, for a half an hour? Really? Okay. But now I'm saying, yeah, I could sit here for a half an hour. Why? I've reduced the sensations of necessity, the need to do, the need to think, the need to achieve, the need to quantify, the need to spend my time wisely. That means less to me now. Because I've recognized by moving into an expanded state the value of the state of nothingness. You say, well, what value does doing nothing have? How can that have value? Well, what it does, this is very important, is it brings you back into yourself. You begin to experience what I call the original self. The being you were before you took on a name, a job, a career, possessions, worries, concerns. You were just a being. Now, what does it mean? How does it feel to just exist? Well, it's everything. It's terrifying. It's thrilling. But when you connect to yourself, you feel a great sense of security and peace because you know you are complete. There's nothing you need to do, not at least in the next 30 minutes or even 5 minutes. So you feel a sense of peace. You don't feel as much of a compulsion to go out and achieve, to acquire in order to define yourself. You don't need to go out and create sensations in order to feel. It's all right here. So that's the value of nothingness. So as you begin to understand that value, you want to go to that place more frequently, as go to the well, as it were, to replenish yourself, to fill yourself up again with who you are, without names or titles or money or possessions, just that sheer, simple experience of existing. Coming to that place, finding the peace, the sense of self-understanding that comes with that place, allows you to then return into the world of doing, thinking, achieving, with a sense of confidence, with a sense of peace and calm. And you more effectively can negotiate the contractive world. There's so many cliches, and it's because these sensations and feelings have been going on since the beginning of man, since the beginning of man's existence. When you hear someone say, I need to go find myself, I need to reconnect, that's what you're doing. So vacations, whatever it is that gives you pleasure, it could be hobbies or whatever that makes you feel yourself, it's a very rich experience, and it brings your life into balance. This scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension, is one of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of techniques that bring you to that state. This is the technique that I discovered, because I've tried many different things. I've tried yoga, rolfing, meditation, philosophies. I've read many, many books. This one, about 10 years ago, struck me as the answer for me. The incremental release of muscular tension was a tool by which I could bring myself into this state of nothingness, this expanded space, which again brought me ultimately into balance. I live in this world. I need to contract. I'm pretty good at contracting. I can do things. I have skills. I can acquire money to survive. I can form relationships. I can write words. I can build things. I can achieve through contracting. But to bring my life into balance, I need to also know how to expand, to let go of everything and go back to my original self so that I can remember who I am, what I am. And that's all this does. The incremental release of muscular tension, going from this to this, this to this, guides you into this expanded state. The release of the muscles, because you can't contract and expand at the same time, takes you away from contraction for however long you wish, 5 minutes, an hour, one time a day, several times a day, whenever. Brings you into balance. The muscles are the guide. It's a simple tool I discovered. It can be challenging, but it's simple to learn, challenging to practice, but the benefits are enormous. Once you've come to that place of nothingness, emptiness, stillness, you're going to want to go there again and again and again. At least I did. And that's it for today. Scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. And I want to make a note, by the way, before I finish up. I will go back today into a very contracted state. If you know anything about me, you know I think a lot, I worry a lot, I'm very active, I can't sit still, and that's kind of my nature. I developed this to bring myself out of that occasionally so that I could find peace, become centered. But make no mistake, I'm a contractor. So I'm going to go back to that now. But in the meantime, I have taken a half an hour to bring myself to center. And I hope you find that too through this technique. Again, scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for visiting. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.